Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past breaks him clear. 3 times quest to conquer the future. He is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with their ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. 1,000 years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past breaks him clear. 3 times quest to conquer the future. He is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with their ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. 1,000 years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past breaks him clear. 2 times quest to conquer the future. He is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with their ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. 1,000 years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past breaks him clear. 3 times quest to conquer the future. He is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with their ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. 1,000 years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past breaks him clear. 3 times quest to conquer the future. He is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with their ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power. Until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past, Jackson Greer. Races through time in his quest to conquer the future. He is pursued by Jaren. Jamie must team with their ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. Years from now, a perfect world. Laser tag champion Jamie Jaren. No, this is not from imagination. This is a show that was an 80s cartoon, very short-lived, based off of the original laser tag game, the guns and helmets and toys. I think there was only like 13 episodes or something, but I do remember watching some, I think in the 80s, very vaguely. And if this is the first time you've watched my channel, I've been doing a series of these cartoons from my childhood. And so what I'm trying to do is find screenshots from the actual shows. But it's really hard to find high quality screenshots. This cartoon, I couldn't find anything higher than 360 or 240p actually. And so I found I think it's a cover of a VHS that this is from. Jamie must team with their ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. I do these drawings every day, every weekday. I've started back last fall. I think I've probably got several hundred or at least 150 or so of these. Kind of surprising how many cartoons I used to watch as a kid. Kind of a couch potato, I think. You can hear in the background is the theme to the show. I know it plays over and over, which just kind of gets old pretty quick, but I can't draw and control the other video very much. But yeah, I just usually I'll draw to the theme song playing in the background, and the longer theme songs are better because it doesn't get as old as fast. And I think it sounds like to me the guy that's narrating this is Peter Cullen, who is the legendary voice of Optimus Prime. So this show is based off, like I said, based off of a toy.
I don't know how much you know, or I don't even know your age, but in the 80s when they first came out with laser tag, like the original laser tag, it was so cool. Like we thought it was the coolest thing ever. And one Christmas, my brother and I got the guns and the helmets and everything that went with it. Laser tag was a thing that was really taken off. So they made this cartoon, they made a live action show about it. But then what happened was a kid somewhere in LA was out playing with his laser tag gun, and some police thought it was a real gun and they shot the kid. It's really sad. And so all of a sudden, just sales plummeted. Like people quit buying, and people were like protesting laser tag and all toy guns. And so like everything laser tag related just sort of died out. And I think some different versions of it have come out over the years where the guns aren't quite as, you can't mistake them for a real gun and stuff. Like there's different arcades have different versions. But yeah, we had the guns and the helmets, and this little badge that's on her chest was a piece too that velcros to your chest, and it has like a battery in it, and it runs. There's a light in there, it goes back and forth, and when the gun hits it, it counts, and so you have like so many lives on it, and so when you get hit, people have to aim at that red thing. When they hit it, it takes a life away, and you've got so many, and then when you get hit however many times, it beeps. It makes a loud beeping sound that basically says you're dead, out of the game. Are you here in the United States, or where, or what city are you in? Yeah, because we have something like that at local arcades, and it's kind of this big pack that you wear, so it doesn't really look like a gun, and you go around and shoot it at people and stuff. Yeah, indoors, like indoor arenas. But it seems like we outgrew the equipment pretty fast as kids, and when I was in my 20s, I took up paintballing, which, if you ask me, is way more fun than laser tag ever was. So what were some of, like, I don't know your age, but what were some of your favorite childhood cartoons growing up? I don't even know if Europe had probably a lot of the same cartoons, but probably lots of different ones too. And yes, it is very painful to get hit in paintball. It's kind of part of the fun though, because you really try to avoid getting hit because you know it hurts. And it's kind of like if you're simulating, like me and my friends would always simulate like war situations, and we'd wear camouflage and everything. And in real life, you're actually trying to dodge bullets and stuff. And so it's kind of, with paintball, you're really trying hard not to get hit because it hurts. But some guys would come out there wearing like all kind of padding, so they couldn't even hardly feel it. And that's hard because then sometimes they would get hit and they wouldn't know it, and they would keep playing. And it's like, no, dude, you're hit, you're out. But those who are really good at it didn't get hit a lot. Yeah, Pokemon's a little after my time. I think that really took off when I was in college. I think I'm 40, so I graduated college in 2002. So my era is really 80s and 90s. But if you wanted to go through and look at my playlist on this channel, it's called Live Drawings. You can see the ones I've been doing since last fall. See all the different shows I used to watch. So a lot of them were reruns from the 60s and 70s too. And of course, Looney Tunes is one of my all-time favorite cartoons, which was as far back as the 30s and 40s. So some of them go way back. But I think my newest drawings probably late 90s. It's as new as they go. Oh, yeah, I'm trying to pick up some viewership here. I haven't been getting really hardly anybody watching my stream, like maybe one person a day, if that. And I'm not really sure. I know I have a pretty crappy camera and my sound is pretty horrible, so that probably has a lot to do with it. I've been thinking about maybe making this into like a how-to drawing series if I actually got people to watch it. Yeah, it's very difficult. And it's sometimes you're fighting algorithms to try to get views, but sometimes it's just your content. Of course, you have to have original, good, interesting content. But I did one of my other playlists is some DIY videos I made, and like I got lucky with some of those because they just happened to be things that people were really searching for, I guess, and couldn't find any other videos on. I did like so I do some kind of mechanicking. I'm not a mechanic, but I just do some DIY stuff on my cars, and I did one for my Hyundai Tucson for a fuel pump, and apparently mine's the only video on YouTube because that one's been blowing up. And I know with art it's really hard because there are so many great artists out there. It's when you get on a world scale and you're trying to compete with everybody in the world, it's insanely hard. Yeah, a viral video would be really nice. And what's hard too is like, and as you get older, like technology changes and stuff. And I like almost everybody, all up and coming artists who are like in their younger 20s and even teens and stuff everybody's going digital now. And like I can do digital. I just would much rather do traditional pencil on paper. And so that's probably hard too, because I don't know if people care about that anymore. I hate to say it, but I kind of feel like a lot of digital is cheating, like in a way, like people can trace something digitally and like record their like a time lapse of their drawing, and you'll never know that they're actually tracing it. And I don't know. There's some really fantastic art out there, but for myself, I feel like it's cheating for me anyway. So, can I ask how you found my channel? Was it like, did it pop up in suggestions for you, or were you searching, or how did you find me? Oh, yes. Right on. Yes, I've been a Circle of Dust fan since I was 16. I think it was 16 or 17 when he first started doing Circle of Dust, and then later changed to Cell Dweller. Now, what's crazy is information in the 90s when I was a teenager, like everything you knew about a band came from reading their the liner notes on the CD. And so like Clayton Cell Dweller, he was like super mysterious, like to try and find out information about him, which was part of what made him really like interesting to try and follow and find out about. And so like I would buy all these CDs, and then I would hear that he did some production work with somebody else's band, and so then I would look up that band. And yeah, it's so the way it started with me, because I don't know if you know this, like he used to be a Christian. I don't know if he is anymore. It's hard to tell. But his music was listed in like Christian music magazines, and I was really into Christian music and trying to find like more hardcore type Christian music, especially actually like techno and like electronic Christian music. And so like I would scour everything trying to find this stuff, and I saw his CD in a magazine, and it said something about electronic dance beats or something like that. And I was like, I'll try this out. And I ordered his CD, the 95 self-titled release, Circle of Dust, which was actually a remaster of his original 92 release. And I was just blown away. Like I had never heard, well, I had heard things like that before. Like friends had brought over their White Zombie CDs and Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, man, if I could just find something that was like that kind of music, but Christian, that'd be my favorite. And I did, and I found Circle of Dust, and I just absolutely loved it. And then I bought Brainchild, which was kind of a remaster of Mind Warp. The history gets kind of confusing. And then I found out about his guitarist Clank did a self-titled release, his own release called Clank Still Suffering. You ever heard of Clank? Klank. And that CD, the first one, because Clayton produced it, was amazing. Like it was definitely could compete with White Zombie and stuff like that. Like great stuff. But then I think Clank kind of, after that, he tried to produce his own CDs, and he just is not near as good of a producer as Clayton. And so his subsequent CDs weren't quite as good. Oh, and a really, really amazing CD that Clayton produced was called Chatterbox. And that was with members of one of the first ever Christian punk bands called The Crucified. So the lead singer, Mark Solomon, and some other guys like Jeff Ballou and stuff, like they were amazing musicians, but they decided to do, like they were like punk musicians. They decided to do an industrial CD called Chatterbox, and Clayton produced it, and it's one of the most kick-ass industrial projects you will ever hear. It is just amazing. Yeah, and I loved the lyrics and stuff on the original Circle of Dust. That was part of what made it just like a one of a kind. Like to hear that quality of industrial metal, but have like more positive type lyrics and not the nasty stuff that like a lot of, you can get down some really dark roads with that type of music. And then, of course, in 1998, so like Clayton, I'm sure you've heard a lot of the past and the history and stuff, but one of the things is like they were marketing him as Christian music and sort of like pushing his stuff into venues that he wasn't really comfortable in being. Like, I think he was a Christian, but he just didn't want to be like, oh, I'm going to go touring with all these like kind of cheesy poppy Christian bands and stuff. Like, he didn't really want that label. And then also like the labels that he was on were kind of screwing him over. Like labels will always own a musician's music, but like they wouldn't let him do certain things, which took all of his money basically. And so he just got really burnt out on all that and just decided to call Circle of Dust quits and just get out of that scene. And so he left it, but he went ahead and put out one more CD under Circle of Dust with a bunch of unreleased material. A couple of releases he was going to call Refractor and Chasm. So he put that all together on Disengage. And then when I heard that, I was like, wow, that like Disengage was a kick-ass CD, like kind of really sort of Nine Inch Nailsy more, because it was a little more electronic than metal. Like the earlier Circle of Dust were a little more metally. But Disengage was a great release. And then, of course, after that was when he became Cell Dweller. And I like Cell Dweller, like that his music that he's been doing since becoming Cell Dweller. But to me, like it just never quite had that bite that Circle of Dust had, because Circle of Dust had that metal edge to it. Like I loved the guitars and just the heaviness. So I kind of lost track over him all the years when he was releasing all the Cell, because there's Cell Dweller, he does release so much under Cell Dweller, like different volumes and stuff. It's really hard to keep track of it all. But you should, you should check out, like, have you checked out Argyle Park? So that was, really, it was pretty much all Clayton, but like the guys who did it with him, mainly the main guy, his name was Chris, or what was that guy's name? He went by Buka. That was like his stage name. And it was sort of Buka's mastermind, but with Clayton's music abilities. And I bought the original Argyle Park Misguided CD. And that was, you know how I was saying how cool Chatterbox was, like Argyle Park was right there. Like it was one of the most amazing things I'd ever heard. Like just this techno metal stuff. I just loved it. It was so cool. But there was only one Argyle Park ever, and then they went their separate ways. I guess Buka got a job at MTV. Can't remember what he did there, and so he kind of left that. And then, but all along too, Clayton's brother, this guy named Dan Albert, because Clayton actually is not his original name. His original name was Scott Albert, and he hates that name, and he's kind of divorced himself from his original name for some reason. So he is Clayton now, but he used to be Scott Albert. His brother is Dan Albert, and Dan Albert's project was called Level. And man, like another great release. If you can ever find Level, Devil's Advocate, it's one of the coolest projects ever. And then he came back and made a second one called, what was it called? Anyway, there's a second Level CD out there. I can't believe I forgot what it is. But they're just amazing, original stuff like I've never heard. So Clank, Argyle Park, Level, must hear that music. Some of the best stuff ever made. And when I say that, like I'm a fan of like White Zombie and Nine Inch Nails and all that. Yes, Denial. That's it. Yeah, you know. So I'm comparing like their stuff to like the most famous stuff out there, like Stabbing Westward and um, Gravity Kills and Rammstein and all these like kick-ass bands. I definitely always thought Circle of Dust could, and these related groups could totally contend with all those. And I think one of the reasons have always been so obscure is because all those guys have somewhat Christian ties, and I think like the dark, heavy world of industrial and metal music, like they don't usually like that, and so they kind of it's like they won't let them play, kind of thing, which is really sad because their music is every bit as good, if not better. But Clayton actually might like I kind of am not sure if he's a Christian anymore, and so he probably doesn't even like to be associated with that at all, even though a lot of us fans like that was what we liked about him, and that's kind of how we identified Circle of Dust and everything. I don't know if he likes that, which is unfortunate, I think. And I guess Level, like he has to go by LVL now because somebody else, some other band called Level, is like already got rights to the name or something like that. I haven't really heard anything after Denial, which that came out in 2003. So like, I don't know what happened to Dan Albert and Level. I actually got like Clayton when he was first deciding to remaster all the Circle of Dust stuff. He was really um, pushing it and talking about it a lot. And his cellmate or his vlog that he does, forget what he calls it. He's actually started one called Ask Circle of Dust. You probably already know about. And that was he was asking like all of us fans to ask questions, and he actually answered one of mine on there because I always wanted to know what the Circle of Dust logo was because I used to draw it on everything in high school. I draw it on my backpack and all my books and stuff, and I always wanted to know what it was. And he answered it one time, and he said it kind of represents like a phoenix rising. Which I'm kind of a purist, I guess. I really like that original one. He kind of redid it for all the re-release stuff, and it's a little more kind of plain, I think. All right, thanks for watching, man. Talk to you later. Say man. I don't know if you're a man or not.
The Laser Tag Academy. A thousand years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag Champion Jaren is the sole possessor of Starlight Power. Until the resurrection of the Master Criminal from the past breaks him clear. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. A thousand years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag Champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of Starlight Power. Until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past breaks him clear. As a clear races through time in his quest to conquer the future, he is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. A thousand years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag Champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of Starlight Power. Until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past breaks him clear. As a clear races through time in his quest to conquer the future, he is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. A thousand years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag Champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of Starlight Power. Until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past breaks him clear. Through time in his quest to conquer the future, he is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. A thousand years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag Champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of Starlight Power. Until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past breaks him clear. As a clear races through time in his quest to conquer the future, he is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past makes him clear. As a clear races through time and is quest to conquer the future, he is pursued by Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. 1,000 years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past makes him clear. As clear races through time and is quest to conquer the future, he is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. 1,000 years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past makes him clear. As a clear races through time and is quest to conquer the future, he is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. 1,000 years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past makes him clear. As a great races through time and is quest to conquer the future, he is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. 1,000 years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past makes him clear. As a clear races through time and is quest to conquer the future, he is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. possessor of starlight power. Until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past, bright and clear. Races through time as he has to conquer the future. He is pursued by Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. A thousand years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power. Until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past, bright and clear. Races through time as he has to conquer the future. He is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors, Tom, Beth, and Nikki Jaren. Join us now in our adventure through time to preserve the past, save the future, and keep the peace established by the Laser Tag Academy. A thousand years from now, a perfect world. Laser Tag champion Jamie Jaren is the sole possessor of starlight power. Until the resurrection of a master criminal from the past, bright and clear.
There we go, folks.
To conquer the future, he is pursued by Jamie Jaren. Jamie must team with her ancestors,